When replacing the temperature sensor, you will need to remove both the left and right side panels on your machine. To do so, use a Phillips head screwdriver to remove the 4 screws securing each side panel to the machine. After removing the left side panel, you now have access to the control board container. Open the control board container by removing the 4 Phillips head screws on each corner of the lid. With the control board now visible, locate the left and right temperature sensor wires that are connected to the control board. These should be connected on the left side of the control board as shown in this video. The top wire is the right temperature sensor and the bottom is the left temperature sensor. Unplug the sensor from the control board in which you are planning to replace and make sure the wire is free from any zip ties or entanglements, as you will be pulling the wire out from the right side of the machine. Next, go to the right side of the machine and locate the other end of the temperature sensor, which should be feeding into a copper tube towards the front of the machine and upwards towards the freezing cylinders. The right temperature sensor is the one closest to you, and the left sensor is the one furthest from you. This is a good time to have a partner on the left side of the machine who can feed the temperature sensor through the top of the control box, while you pull on the same wire from the left side of the machine in order to completely remove it from the control box. Once you have the sensor free from the control board container, remove the temperature sensor plug for the sensor you are replacing. Next, gently pull down on the temperature sensor wire until you have completely removed it from inside the copper tubing. The wire and sensor should be covered in a layer of non-hardening or non-drying thermal grease. It is very important that the thermal grease used is non-hardening or non-drying, otherwise you could end up with a permanent temperature sensor. With the sensor completely out of the machine, take a measurement starting from the end of the sensor that was in the copper tubing down to the bend in the wire where the temperature sensor plug was holding the wire in place. Just as an example, we will say the measurement here is 10 inches. Now on your new sensor, make a mark 10 inches from the end of the sensor and cover the entire area with non-hardening thermal grease just as the old sensor was. With your temperature sensor completely covered in thermal grease, insert the new sensor into the copper tube until you reach the measurement mark you made on it. If you have trouble inserting the new sensor into the copper tube, you may need to use something long and stiff to help push the sensor into the copper tube. For example, a coat hanger should work just fine. Once you have inserted the sensor completely, put the plug back on the end of the copper tube just as it was before. Next, feed the loose end of the sensor into the top of the control board container as the previous sensor was. Connect the loose end of the new sensor into the same terminal that the old sensor was connected to. Next, reattach the control board container lid to the control board container using the same Phillips head screws that were removed. Finally, reattach both side panels to complete this job.